Hi, I'm going to talk briefly about the universe expanding. Now, there's some guy called, what's his name, Kent Hovind, who I think, in my very humble opinion, acts like a complete twit. All right. Now, he'll often say the universe, or atheists or scientists or somebody believes that the universe exploded. No, the universe is expanding. And okay, so what's the difference? All right. Um, the thing is, expansion means that the space itself stretches. There is no center, there's no edge, there's no outside required, and it's fairly uniform and smooth. Now, an explosion has a center and an edge. Matter moves through space and requires an external space to expand into, and it's chaotic and directional. So the reason why we correct this guy whenever he says that the Big Bang means that the universe exploded is because it's not correct, right? It is wrong. Expansion. The universe is expanding, so space stretching. There's no center, no edge, no outside. Not required. It's smooth and uniform. So what do we mean? Okay, the universe is not expanding into anything. Okay, because we feel like that's what it should be, right? But what actually is occurring is that the fabric of space-time is expanding, right? And galaxies move apart because the space between the galaxy is growing. So the space between galaxies, the space between different things, is growing. Okay. So space itself is the thing that's growing. There is no outside of the universe in current cosmology. Space-time is the totality of the physical universe. When it expands, the distance between points increases, but there is no external container. The universe can be finite but unbounded. The classical analogy of the surface of a balloon. The 2D surface expands, there is no edge. Okay, so the surface does not expand into the inside of the balloon from the perspective of a 2D creature living on it. Our universe is like that, but 3D space instead of 2D surface. So physics doesn't currently define or require an outside of the universe. General relativity describes the universe as a self-contained manifold. Asking what is outside is a bit like asking what is north of the North Pole. Some speculative theories include, right, they're not confirmed, they include, so they imagine things like hyperdimensional space, like brane cosmology, multi-universe, multiverse bubbles, or quantum foam origins. But none of these are required to explain expansion. All right. So if you take back the expansion, what does it come to? It comes to time. They are talking about the theoretical state at the beginning of the universe. So if you take all the mass and everything and go back in time, it all comes to a singularity, which is not a dot or point, single thing. It comes to a period that currently is beyond sort of physics in a lot of ways, right? It's not a dot or a point. It's in general relativity, the density has become infinite, temperature has become infinite, and space-time curvature becomes infinite, and the equations break down. So the singularity is not, I want to repeat this, not a physical object. It's a sign that our current physics and mass are not working for that particular area, all right? This doesn't mean we've stopped researching, and we are. Okay, the classical Big Bang model says that if you run the expansion of the universe backwards, everything compresses to a singularity of infinite density. Okay, physicists do not think the universe literally began as an infinitely small point. Instead, the singularity tells us that general relativity cannot describe the earliest moment. We need quantum gravity or some other sort of theory to understand it, and we do not have a complete theory yet. So most current models are what most cosmology think, okay? Or current models, modern current models. Quantum gravity could be an idea. Space and time become quantized, so they can't shrink to zero size. The universe had a minimum size, not a point. Inflation, a tiny, extreme dense region underwent rapid expansion. This avoids the need for an actual singularity. And again, I want to think, nobody thinks there was literally a single point, right? Except for this Kent Hovind or whatever his name is. There's a bounce model. Some theories propose a previous universe that collapsed and bounced into ours. Non-boundary proposal. Hawking and Hartle suggested the universe didn't begin at a point. Time becomes space-like near the beginning, removing the singularity entirely. The singularity did not exist in any literal event, at least probably not. All right? It's our current physics cannot describe this moment right now. So the universe was once extremely hot and dense. It has been expanding for 13.8 billion years. The earliest fraction of a second is still unknown territory. And how do we know it's expanding? By what? Okay, there's cosmic microwave radiation background for one. Okay, so also we've got redshift. So as things move faster, light goes into the red area. So as galaxies and stars move away faster, that's what's called redshift. All right, so this is really important to understand that why we are correcting this guy when he says the universe exploded is because that's not what happened. That is incorrect. Now, I think he knows this. I think he's just playing deliberately dumb because it earns him money, but that's just my opinion. You think of what you will. But look, this is really, I understand that not having answers, and like you can insert that God did it, but then you have to prove that God exists. And then you have to show why it did it and how it did it. Saying God did it does not answer any questions because one, why? Two, how? Using what method? And did it just do it and then take off? Or is it still around? Does it give a shit? Does it not? Adding a God there does not add anything. Now, if people want to think that or believe that, fine, but I don't think it really is helpful or useful, right? You may as well say like a unicorn or a giraffe did it. What point are you trying to even say here? All we can say is we don't know yet. Now, if you want to believe in some kind of God, sure. I mean, I don't, look, I depend on what your actions are. I don't really care what people believe or don't. But this is where, you get some very, a minority of religious people turn around and will deny science because it clashes with their favourite religion or their interpretation of their religion or whatever. And this guy, Kent Hovind, I'm pretty sure he's a young earth creationist. He doesn't believe the universe is 13.8 billion years old. Not exactly sure what he does believe because honestly, the guy does stupid things like, whack an atheist, and he always says stuff that's incorrect scientifically. And look, I'm an atheist, but like a lot of people will accept science and they don't have to be atheists. There's not a conflict as far as I'm concerned because nothing changed for me. I used to be a Christian and I accepted all the science and nothing changed for me when I became an atheist. Seriously, I don't think creationism or intelligent design adds anything. They're not scientifically correct. All right. And I think they really take away from our understanding our place in the world and in the universe. And I just think, if you are religious, I don't think that dishonest people who deliberately misrepresent science and give false, like what atheists believe, false stuff, is not helping your cause. I mean, people are leaving religion a lot, and I think it's because, one, there's sexual abuse of children in religion is a big one. I mean, I think all religions have this issue, and like so do a lot of non-religion organisations too. I'm not saying this is specifically religious issue, but the problem is religion touts itself as being more moral, and it's definitely not. It's not any less moral, but it's not more moral. It's got equal morals. And not only that, is there often religion for some people is just it's an excuse for being bigots against the gays, queers, trans. I'm gender fluid, I'm trans, and I'm sick to death of being told, like I'm out on the atheist because I want to sin. I'm not sinning, right? Sin is an action against God. It doesn't mean I don't do things wrong. Being trans is not something I decided. It's something I am. I've been since birth, all right? And I am sick to death that some religious people and some religions use their religions and their religious beliefs or their, religious texts an excuse for bigotry and for controlling other people, controlling whether or not someone can get an abortion or someone can have a sex change operation or whether someone can get divorced or married or whatever, and or when someone can have sex or not. And they like to, they come down and they say, oh, God says this, like my insert your religious text here was written, it's by God. God is incontrovertible. It's, it's unchanged. There's no evidence that any gods or gods had anything to do with any of these religious texts. They're all written by people. Now, you can believe differently, but this is, again, what I'm having a problem with. I'm a fan of progressive religious people. I'm not a fan of conservative anybody, whether they're conservative atheists, conservative religious people, conservative anything. Conservative people often resist change that's needed and useful. But anyway, so the universe did not explode, it expanded. And I'm correcting this because, look, it's just not correct. And I think people should have what the science so far shows. Thanks.